evening. You're watching the News at 6 with me, Ishan Russell. The News at 6 is all about the day's biggest developing stories. The big developments that happened today: Supreme Court struck down Section 66A of the IT Act. That is, of course, the big story. And the other one, the first finalists of the World Cup has been decided, and what a nail-biter of a match it was between New Zealand and South Africa. We'll be analysing that match with a special guest. Jaideep Ghosh, senior sports journalist, will be joining us over the next half hour as well. So all that and more packed into the next half hour. But first, the headlines. Supreme Court strikes down Section 66A as unconstitutional. Court says language used in the section is vague and nebulous, violates freedom of speech and expression. Activists, victims and political parties welcome ruling. Congress admits the UPA regime law was poorly drafted and vulnerable to misuse. Two-day border talks between India and China conclude in Delhi. Both sides agree to maintain peace while working on resolving boundary disputes. A French aircraft with 148 people on board crashes in the Alps. Initial reports suggest loss of radar of the German-winged Airbus 320 flight. And in the Cricket World Cup, New Zealand entered the finals after a nail-biting victory over South Africa. The top story this evening: in a landmark judgment, the Supreme Court struck down the contentious Section 66A of the Information Technology Act. The section was seen as a major infringement of the freedom of speech online because it allowed for arrests of people posting offensive content. Now, the ambiguity in the law led to misuse by many political parties arresting people for flimsy comments.
Upholding the citizens' fundamental right of speech and expression, the Supreme Court scrapped the provision in cyber law that gave authorities powers to jail people for offensive online posts. The law was challenged first by a law student in 2012 after two young women were arrested in Mumbai for criticizing the total shutdown in the city after the death of Bal Thackeray. The support group later expanded to include activists, writers, bloggers and rights groups.
सब लोग इंटरनेट इस्तेमाल करते हैं तो ये सबको अफेक्ट करता है और आई थिंक ये बहुत ही खुश दिन है फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच और एक्सप्रेशन हम सब के लिए.
Victims who suffered under the application of the provision welcomed the verdict, terming it a historic moment.
फ्री स्पीच की इस देश में सबसे बड़ी जीत है क्योंकि बहुत बार ऐसा हुआ है कि बहस बनी है, डिस्कशंस हुए हैं, डिबेट्स हुए हैं, टीवी तक पहुंची है, अखबारों तक पहुंची है, पर वो मुकाम तक पहली बार पहुंची है.
This is the victory of the common people by this verdict.
जी मैं इसके लिए बहुत ज़्यादा खुश हूँ. अब मैं सुप्रीम कोर्ट का आभारी हूँ कि हटा दी गई है. इससे मेरे दिमागी टेंशन बहुत थी और मैं बहुत ज़्यादा परेशान था.
The government maintained that it was not in favor of curbing dissent on social media.
Government led by Shri Narendra Modi ji fully supports freedom of speech and expression on social media.
The contentious provision in the IT Act was introduced by the UPA regime in the year 2008. The Congress admitted that it was poorly drafted and vulnerable to misuse. The party joined other parties in welcoming the verdict. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, while most political parties welcomed the verdict, there were a few like the Shiv Sena and the JDU who criticized it. Let's listen in.
What the Supreme Court judgment has come is certainly a welcome step. What was being misused under Section 66A, that certainly was being used by certain political parties for their own political gains.
The Supreme Court has arrived at an appropriate decision. 66A was the antithesis of the freedom of speech and expression guaranteed by Article 19. It put too much of powers in the hands of law enforcement agencies, and it was being used in the most knee-jerk manner to persecute conscientious dissenters. So therefore, if the Supreme Court has struck it down, it's a welcome decision.
If there is a certain amount of news that will circulate on the social media, nobody should take offense. Now, if you have a political vendetta against some people and using this section 66A of the Right to Information Act, they have been penalized according to law. This was unjustified. We have been demanding correction of this, and I'm glad a correction has come by the Supreme Court.
देखिए, सोशल मीडिया चाहिए, ऐसा नहीं कि उसमें कुछ अच्छे पहलू भी है, लेकिन सोशल मीडिया का मिसयूज बहुत हो रहा है हमारे देश में। उसके रोकने के लिए कुछ ना कुछ पुलिस के हाथ में कानून का एक सेक्शन तो चाहिए।
नहीं, वो गलत किया है। यहाँ न आजादी का मतलब गाली गलौज नहीं है, आजादी का मतलब कैरेक्टर असैसिनेशन नहीं है। क्यों नहीं होगा वो एक्ट? जिस तरह से लोग गाली गलौज कर रहे हैं उस पर, जिस तरह अभद्रता का डेमोन्स्ट्रेशन हो रहा है।
Now moving on, a delegation led by China's State Councillor Yang Jiechi met Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Tuesday. The meeting came on a day after the two nations agreed to maintain peace and tranquility along their Himalayan border while they work on resolving a long festering boundary dispute.
China's State Councillor Yang Jiechi and National Security Advisor Ajit Doval concluded the 18th round of border talks to resolve the long festering boundary dispute. The talks are aimed at fixing a dispute over the border that divides Asia's largest nations, part of a push to make progress on the festering row before Prime Minister Narendra Modi visits China. China's foreign ministry released a statement stating that both nations will build on the results of previous negotiations and push forward in the correct direction. The talks are the first since Modi took office as Prime Minister. India is keen to resolve the dispute that has clouded rapidly expanding commercial links. Any progress is expected to throw a positive light on Modi's expected visit to Beijing in May. China claims over 90,000 square kilometers disputed by New Delhi in the eastern sector. India says China occupies 38,000 square kilometers of its territory on the Aksai Chin Plateau in the west as well. In September, the two armies faced off in the Ladakh sector just as Chinese President Xi Jinping was visiting India for the first summit talks with Modi. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, a series of tweets of disgust and duty by Minister of State for External Affairs, General V.K. Singh, has stirred a controversy. The BJP is also not very happy with what he said. The opposition, in fact, has hit out at the government on the issue.
Attending the Pakistan National Day reception at the Pakistan High Commission on Monday may have been an official duty, but it did not go down well with former Army Chief and present Union Minister General V.K. Singh. Soon after the event, Singh expressed disgust at having gone to the Pakistani Commission in a series of tweets. While his Twitter outburst has reportedly miffed his party, it gave the opposition fodder to attack the government.
It is an established tradition that even if any country celebrates its National Day, one of the representatives from the Government of India goes to participate in that program. In the same manner, on the occasion of Pakistan Day, MOS General V.K. Singh has went on behalf of the Government of India. This was an established tradition since the previous government. This is the diplomatic tradition, or you can say diplomatic compulsion.
If hashtag duty slash hashtag disgust is so disgusted with his government's double standards or double take on Pakistan, then he should quit. After all, when duty becomes a burden, the appropriate and the honorable thing to do is to then just put in your papers and call it a day.
वीके सिंह गलत बयानी कर रहे हैं। जम्मू कश्मीर में जो साझा सरकार बनी है उसके कॉमन मिनिमम प्रोग्राम में शामिल है हुर्रियत से बात करना और पाकिस्तान से भी बात करना। वो गलत बयानी कर रहे हैं।
V.K. Singh was deputed to attend the function as the government representative that was also attended by several Hurriyat leaders like Mirwais Umar Farooq, Syed Ali Shah Gilani and Yasin Malik. Bureau Report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, the Supreme Court has sought a response from two lawyers for their comments on women in the documentary India's Daughter on the 2012 Delhi gang rape. ML Sharma and A.K. Singh are defense lawyers of the four accused on death row. The court was responding to a petition by the Supreme Court Women's Lawyers Association asking for a ban on the lawyers' entry. Now, in a strategic move, Sri Lanka ordered the release of 54 Tamil fishermen today. After the arrest, the Tamil Nadu government had threatened to derail the ongoing talks between the fishermen union of the two countries. A third round of fishermen-level talks was slated for today. All Tamil fishermen were arrested for allegedly fishing in Lankan territorial waters on the 21st of March. Official reports suggest that the fishermen will return tomorrow after being handed over by the Sri Lankan Navy to the Indian Coast Guard personnel. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will attend the funeral ceremony of Singapore's first Prime Minister, Lee Kuan Yew, on the 29th of March. External Affairs Ministry tweeted Modi's decision today. 91-year-old Lee died of severe pneumonia on Monday. Following Lee's death, Modi had expressed deep condolences, calling Lee as a far-sighted statesman and a lion among leaders. The Asian Development Bank today projected India's growth rate to surpass China's and improve to 7.8% in the next fiscal. Its Asian Development Outlook said India's growth and investor confidence will improve on the back of government's structural reform agenda and improved external demand.
Is Indian economy set to surpass China? As per the Asian Development Bank projection, Indian economy could grow at the rate of 7.8% in the next fiscal and could even cross the 8% mark. Experts feel government's push on the reforms has started to show results.
Government is on a structural reform process and the government is pushing through with the reforms. If you talk about international investor confidence, my personal view is that international investors are looking towards India with much more confidence, and India is being looked as a land of opportunities.
With China's economy expected to scale down from 7.2% to even below the 7% mark, India may emerge as a new strong market not just for the foreign investors but domestic investors as well.
Long term it will have a big positive because those long term investors and buy only funds world over, they will see this as an indication to put more money, to invest more money in our country and in our capital markets.
With government trying hard to defend itself on the legislative business and its reform agenda inside and outside Parliament, the ADB's projection on economy is positive reinforcement for the government. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, some more national news and updates in Nationwide now. The Congress protests against the land bill in Punjab turned violent in Chandigarh today with activists clashing with the state police. The party had organized a march to the Punjab Assembly to oppose the bill. The police used water cannons to control protesters who stormed barricades. Many protesters, including senior party leaders, were taken into custody. The Supreme Court on Tuesday reserved a verdict on a batch of petitions challenging the constitutional amendment and enabling law to replace the collegium system for appointment of judges. The Apex Court is hearing matters to decide whether the petitions were maintainable or not. The Indian Navy added 3 immediate support vessels to its squad to enhance coastal security. The vessels T-38, T-39 and T-40 are part of the 84th Immediate Support Vessel Squadron and were commissioned in Visakhapatnam. They're designed to carry out surveillance for long hours. Well, time for a very quick break right now, but coming up on the other side, we'll be discussing the nail-biter of a match that happened between New Zealand and South Africa. New Zealand came trumps, but with just 1 ball to spare. We'll be analysing the match on the other side.
वर्ल्ड कप का पहला सेमीफाइनल दक्षिण अफ्रीका का टूटा सपना 4 विकेट से जीता न्यूजीलैंड। देखिए पहली खबर, फाइनल में न्यूजीलैंड आज शाम 7 बजे।
Welcome back. You're watching the news at 6. Now some sports, and New Zealand's cricketers today continued their unbeaten march in the World Cup. Playing their first semi-final of the Cricket World Cup at Auckland, Grant Elliott struck a 6 of the penultimate ball to lift the Black Caps to a 4-wicket win over South Africa in a cliffhanger of a match. The win carries the Kiwis into the World Cup final for the first time, ending a run of defeats in its 6 previous semi-finals. New Zealand's were set a stiff target of 298 runs in 43 overs under the Duckworth-Lewis rule in a rain-curtailed game. The result also means the perennial chokers tag will continue to haunt South Africa since the inaugural edition in 1975. New Zealand have reached the semi-finals of the showpiece event 6 times but have failed to clear the penultimate hurdle on all the occasions. And senior sports journalist Jaideep Ghosh now joins us in the studio to help us understand, not just understand, but Jaideep, what happened? I mean, both teams under immense pressure this time around, both in a World Cup, vying for that World Cup final spot, but this time once again South Africa not really managing to do that well.
Yeah, I guess a knockout match, and especially when you've never been into the final, that is always a little bit of a psychological situation for both the teams. But again, a couple of things didn't go in South Africa's favour also, including the fact that the rain came in while they were batting, and that robbed them of a fair amount of momentum, and not to mention 7 overs, because they were looking good for a score well beyond 300, which would have been a real challenge for New Zealand later. But given the fact that they had to be restricted to 281, and then the Duckworth-Lewis came in, and 298 was the target that was given to New Zealand. So there were a couple of things didn't go their way. They lost a little momentum. AB de Villiers was going great guns, completely lost out on his momentum. And while fielding, obviously they did.
Yeah, that was quite surprising. I mean, the South Africa doesn't usually drop catches or miss runouts, but this time the pressure perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there was a pressure, and see, the thing is that everywhere, if you look at every close match, there are a couple of things, very few little, things, one run out, maybe one catch somewhere, which makes a difference between the two sides, and sides that are so well matched like these two. I guess it was just a matter of who held their nerves till the end, and obviously Grant Elliott and New Zealand did, and it worked out brilliantly for them.
Alright, let's talk about the Kiwi performance, because we'll be seeing them again in the final of the World Cup. Depends on whether they face India or Australia. Of course, we over here, at least I'm rooting for India. But in terms of the Kiwi performance, and on the batting side, I mean, it was almost everybody chipped in. It wasn't just one big massive score by one individual. Everybody chipped in, and that would be worrying for anybody facing them in the finals.
Yeah, see, the difference between the two sides today was that essentially, because South Africa depends way too much on AB de Villiers, and the other guys today, okay, they came in and they contributed, but the whole process, revolves around AB de Villiers, how he does, how well he's batting, how good his form is, and his confidence. Well, on the other hand, New Zealand is a side where, because McCullum has done so well and Guptill has done so well at the top, the other batsmen were not really tried and put in a situation to come and score. But obviously they are in great form and great confidence, and all of them came good. Corey Anderson came with a great innings. Grant Elliott, who was the last man selected for the World Cup squad, he came in with the winner. So obviously it was a major batting contribution right down the order.
Alright, also a little bit about the bowling. I mean, Bolt is one of the top wicket takers in this tournament, and given that this is on home ground in terms of conditions that are familiar to the Kiwis, do we see this perhaps be their World Cup? Is there a possibility? I mean, I'm sure they would be expecting that or wanting that.
Well, the first thing that they are going to miss is the home conditions, because the final shifts to Melbourne. So obviously that is out of the window. Including the support they've had, that phenomenal support, which is something which started very slowly. New Zealand, the people who follow cricket in New Zealand are a very, lukewarm kind of supporters who are there and thereabouts. But as the team started performing, they won 10 matches running in the last few days, including the World Cup. Obviously, the performance, the support now was tremendous. That is something they're going to lose, obviously, in the final, and also the fact that Melbourne is a way bigger ground than anything that New Zealand has to offer. So the permutation changes a little, but a good player is a good player on any ground. They might have to adjust the way they approach the match a little, maybe rejig their attacking batting a little, but in terms of Bolt and the other bowlers coming good, I don't think that should be an issue. Only thing is that they might not find it as easy as they did in New Zealand.
All right, but in terms of a match, it was almost like a boxing match, old school slugfest. So, in terms of tiredness, or would they be carrying anything forward, or it's a World Cup final and you're not tired for a World Cup final?
It's high. I mean, I guess everybody had bloody nose hair today and black eyes and everything that you can associate with a boxing match. But they have won, and they won it in a situation where they could have lost. I mean, that last over 12 runs against Dale Steyn, they could have lost. But they won it, so it will be a huge boost for them. First time in the final. That will carry them through a little bit of physical, and they're getting a couple of days extra, if you understand, from the other semi-finalists. So I guess the recovery shouldn't be so much of an issue, especially in a team that is as fit as New Zealand.
All right, Jaideep, we'll leave it over there, and let's now wait and watch as to who will be facing the Kiwis in the final, whether it will be India or Australia. But thanks very much for coming in and helping us understand this match a little better. All right, moving on now, let's get you some more sports updates in Sports Beat. West Indian batsman Chris Gayle has signed with English county side Somerset in the upcoming NatWest Blast T20 competition. The big Jamaican will join up with the team for the 6 games between May and June after finishing his stint with IPL in the Royal Challengers Bangalore. South Korea's Olympic swimming champion Park Tae-won was handed an 18-month ban after a failed drug test. Swimming's governing body said on Monday. Park, a 2-time world champion and the first Korean to win an Olympic swimming medal, tested positive for testosterone in an out-of-competition test conducted by FINA last September ahead of the Asian Games. China National Chemical Corporation is to buy Pirelli, the world's largest fifth largest tyre maker, in a €7.1 billion deal. Pirelli, whose tyre is equipped Formula One cars, would have more bandwidth to compete against larger rivals such as Michelin and Continental that are looking for growth in Asia. Beijing's Winter Olympics 2022 bid committee officially welcomed the International Olympic Committee inspection team today. A 5-day tour will take the panel to sites in the capital and would be co-host Zhangjiakou city in nearby Hebei province. Some other international news now. Amid tense relations between the White House and Israel, reports have emerged of the Netanyahu government spying on Iranian nuclear talks in order to build a case against the deal. Although Israel has denied the charges, the espionage allegations are just the latest in a series of incidents that have damaged the Netanyahu government's relationship with the White House.
In a development bound to strike a blow to the US-Israel relationship, a Wall Street Journal report said White House officials suspect Israel of spying on their talks with other world powers to put a lid on Iran's nuclear program. The newspaper said Israel spied on the P5+1 nuclear negotiations with Iran to build a case against a nuclear deal. The report says Israel angered the Obama administration by using the information obtained from its espionage efforts to drum up opposition to a nuclear deal among US lawmakers. Israel, however, denied the report, claiming the state of Israel doesn't conduct espionage against the United States or Israel's other allies. The White House insists it won't accept a bad deal in Iran nuclear talks, even as Britain says alternatives to striking a deal with Iran were not attractive.
The United States will continue to do everything in our power to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. In the coming days, our P5+1 negotiators will continue to meet with Iran's representatives to see if we can bridge the remaining gaps and come to an understanding that will peacefully and verifiably resolve the international community's deep concerns with Iran's nuclear program. And as we've said all along, we will not accept a bad deal.
We should not do a deal at any price, but I do think the alternatives to doing a deal are not alternatives that are attractive, and frankly they're not attractive for Iran. The sanctions that we put in place, and Britain led the charge in Europe, has done such damage to Iran that it's in their interest to conclude a deal.
The US, UK, France, Germany, Russia and China are reconvening negotiations this week to try to break the deadlock over Tehran's atomic research program and lifting sanctions before a 31st of March deadline. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has been vehemently opposed to a deal. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
A German-owned Airbus A320 plane crashed in the southern French Alps. The plane had 148 people, including 6 crew members on board. Initial reports suggest that there was a loss of radar of the Germanwings flight. The plane was en route from Barcelona to Düsseldorf.
Un avion de la compagnie Germanwings vient de s'écraser au-delà de Digne, près de Barcelonnette. Cet avion faisait le trajet entre la ville de Barcelone et la ville de Düsseldorf. Il y avait 148 personnes à bord.
Now more international news and updates in Global Buzz. Tunisia's Bardo Museum will now be reopened only by Sunday. Reports suggest that security concerns appear to have halted the reopening on Tuesday. The museum was closed a week after a terror strike killed 20 people. There is still a looming threat from the Islamic State for further attacks. At least 9 Pakistani Taliban militants were killed in a US drone strike at Afghanistan's Nangarhar province near the border with Pakistan. Reports suggest that the CIA-operated unmanned aerial vehicle targeted a suspected militant hideout with 2 missiles, completely destroying the compound. Several people were also wounded in the strike. A blizzard hit the midwestern United States on Monday, causing traffic snarls and delays. Few parts of the city had over 15 centimeters thick snow. Visibility level dropped to less than 1,000 meters. Over 700 flights were cancelled or delayed. Commuter trains were also temporarily stopped due to the heavy snow. Several accidents were also reported on local highways. Now, the 62nd National Film Awards were announced today. Vikas Bahl's Queen was awarded the Best Hindi Film, while Kangana Ranaut won the Best Actress Award for her performance in the movie. This is the second time that Kangana won the award after she had won the Best Supporting Actor for the film Fashion in 2008. Vijay was named the Best Actor, for the Kannada movie Nanu Avanala Avalu. Mary Kom was the Best Popular Film. Chaitanya Tamhane's Court got the award for the Best Feature Film. Aida turned out the winner of several awards, including Best Choreography, Music Direction, Costume Design and Male Playback Singer for Sukhwinder Singh. Bengali director Srijit Mukherjee won Best Director for Chotu Shokne. The supporting actor awards were backed by Tamil actor Bobby Simha and Baljinder Kaur for the Haryanvi film Pagdi the Honor. Kila was named the Best Marathi Film, while Harivu was declared the Best Kannada Film. Nirbashito won the same award in the Bengali film category. Well, that's it from us. Goodbye.